And welcome to the SegaCrew podcast, first ever. We have joining me Grumpmeister and Jimmy Diamonds. This is actually their show, but they wanted me to just say a few words real quick why we decided to do this podcast. Honestly, it was something we've been kicking around for a long time. Faust was really the one that initiated the conversations, but it was actually Im's messaged me, and I told him something. I don't remember the details, but he was like, oh, I didn't even know that was happening. And I was just like, we need some way to get information out to people of what's happening at Sega Crew. You know, we chat so much. I know everyone has the Discord muted by now. I don't blame you guys. So we were like, you know what, let's do a podcast. It'll be really cool to get out not only our information, but just Sega retro news in general. And we thought it'd be really cool to have a couple different teams. Right now, we're on a European friendly time. 8 p.m. I think Grumpmeister's time, and 7 p.m. Jimmy Diamond's, or it might be an hour later. I'm terrible at conversions. But you know, it's also during the day here in North America, so I think it's going to work out perfectly. And honestly, that's all I got. I'm going to hand the show over to you guys. And everyone enjoy. I'm definitely going to sit back and listen as well, and everyone have fun.
Wow, that was an introduction and a half. Hello, everyone. I am Jimmy Diamonds. I am the English part of these two grumpy dudes.
I'm Grumpmeister. I'm the Dutch part and like the mainland part, like not. Technically, I'm the only European guy here.
Well, I mean, Europe is a continent. It's not just a set of nation states, right?
It's not a union.
But welcome, Sega Crew, to the Sega Crew podcast. Thank you ever so much, Brewster, for leading us in. I believe that we are aiming to be on the air on your streams every other Thursday around this time, depending on availability, of course, to shoot the shit, really. Talk a little bit about upcoming news within the world of Sega, the ridiculous world of Sega. Talk about a handful of the upcoming events that we have, both ourselves at Sega Crew, as well as some events adjacent to us, as well as go through a few speedrunning highlights, because we're pretty sure the majority of us here are speedrunners. Is that right?
Nah, I guess so. Look at the chat. There's so many speedrunners right here.
Yeah.
When it comes to the world of Sega, there's so much happening anyway, and I didn't even know that there was so much happening until I started researching this.
Well, Sega
it's insane.
Sega are a weird beast, because when you look at companies like Square Enix, when you look at companies like Sony, they've all got very particular games that they release. Sony are all the very, very big blockbuster games. Square Enix, quite a lot of East Asian focused games. Sega has a lot of weird stuff under its wing. So it's got things like Motorsport Manager, it's got your Football Manager, it's got your Sonic games, it's got Total War, it's got lots of the Japanese focused games, it's got all the Atlas games. It's just a huge melting pot of so many different styles, so many different interests that you can kind of get your teeth into. And they're just a really interesting publisher, really confusing publisher sometimes, because as we are all aware, though we of course love Sega, they make some bloody awful decisions. Wow. But they have they have such a variety of games, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Grump, when did you actually get into Sega stuff?
Oh, when did I get the Sega stuff? That was actually quite late, because back in the days, I grew up with, most people that do know me, I grew up with stuff like CDI, Atari Lynx, that kind of stuff. So whenever I went to buy a game for the Atari Lynx, I would see little the cartridges on the shelves, you have the really basically named Atari Lynx games like football or hockey. And then right over there, you got your Sonics and whatever Game Gear games, because it's all handheld, so it was right next to each other. And I just wanted, I want this. I want these games, but I could not play them. So I had only one friend that had a Mega Drive, because we're European right here. For the US crowd, that's a Genesis. And other than that, I didn't really grow up with Sega until way later, when I started to play Sega games on the emulator, foremost, then playing in acoustic ground. They got a Game Gear game, and I was like, "Hey, this is actually quite fun." And then I just delved into things, and now I have most of the Sega consoles and such. So,
See,
yeah,
people do find Game Gear games fun, chat. They do.
Yes,
there are
they're good.
dozens of us, absolute dozens of us. And
So
speaking of which, that you own lots of Sega consoles. You have a particular console in your collection that has a connection to me, doesn't it, sir?
indeed, I took over your Sega Saturn, and I'm quite happy with it. Actually, it's really cool. I do want to explore the library a bit more, of course, because it has so many fun games to experience. And I mean, it has the Tempo game, Super Tempo.
Yeah.
Your avatar.
my avatar
that.
is literally ripped from Super Tempo. The weirdest game that you ever play. Chat, if you do get the opportunity to play any of the 3 Tempo games, do so at your own risk. Goodness me, what a weird ass games, a bunch of games they are.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's still also a connection between us because we both speedrun the Tempo Junior games on the Game Gear.
We did indeed. And not only that, we took part in a race on GDQ together where you soundly wiped the floor with me. Oh my God, that was embarrassing. I suck.
You can't see it, but I'm wiping my own shoulders right now.
No, so something that's worthwhile keeping in mind in the chat is that weirdly enough, in the mid to late 80s, Europe, UK, and the strange place where Grump currently lives, it wasn't very much a console region. It was very much focused on home PCs, or at least the kind of type of PCs that you found in the 80s. So the Commodore was a big thing in Europe. The Spectrum was huge. The Amiga really took hold in Europe, and that was actually doing surprisingly well, even until like 94, 95, when the 32-bit consoles came around. So though I am a Sega boy from the age of 4, because I am old now, similar to Grump, my background with consoles isn't entirely Sega based. It is Amiga, it is Commodore, it is the old Speccy, the Apple, the Apple, not the Apple II, the BBC Micro, etc. And it's just being able to kind of see the power of a dedicated games console versus all that very, very flexible, very, very technical, very incredible stuff that you can get on those older home PCs. Was a big shock to the system, and then there was lots of flashing blue lights coming from playing Sonic 2. So yeah, it's certainly an interesting world, and now we're here hosting a podcast based on Sega. Ain't life grand? Ain't life weird?
Speaking of weird, and a bit of a segue into what you were talking about a moment ago with Amiga being really big in Europe. Like I had an Amiga as well as a kid. Or my dad had one, and I played on it. But did you know that Sonic actually first appeared in an Amiga game before Sonic was actually released?
I can't remember the name of the game. I knew this factoid, but the actual name of it really, really escapes me.
The Adventures of Quick and Silva. They took Sonic from a news article or a magazine article, and they were like, "Yeah, we're putting that in our game."
What a bunch
Sonic
of
is actually
bastards.
I mean, you can't see what wasn't there yet, you know?
Yeah, good point. Is it really theft if you do it first? Yes, entirely. It's intellectual theft.
Yeah.
Don't do that, chat. Don't steal someone's characters from a game, even if the game's not out yet. Please don't do that. That is indeed property theft. Thank you very much.
I'm nice enough to link a screenshot of Sonic in Quick and Silva in chat, so you can enjoy that if you want to, or don't.
There's also a surprising amount of Amiga games that originated on the Amiga that didn't make them way over to the Mega Drive / Genesis. You get guys like John Burton who cut his teeth on Amiga games and ended up bringing a lot of his stuff over to a lot of his incredible coding techniques over to the Mega Drive. But we digress a little bit with our history. So, shall we plow ahead? Give us a little bit of the news in the world of Sega, Grump. Tell me some.
I mean, one of the most important things that's happened in the past weeks, a week actually, is that the Dreamcast celebrated its 24th anniversary on the 9th of September. And yeah, we can't really go without a celebration of it next year, can we? Like, it will be the 25th anniversary. Like, that's a big milestone. So, SegaCrew, are you dusting off your Dreamcast yet? Get your games ready to do an event next year to celebrate 25 years of Dreamcast.
You have plenty of time to learn your game in a little under 365 days. But yes,
You're welcome.
I do have to make a admission, which I'm slightly ashamed to do so in front of such wonderful company. I have never owned, never played a Dreamcast.
It took a while for me to get one. I got one, I think 1 year ago. It's a Japanese one, so I need converter and converter, and it's annoying as all hell.
Of course.
But I did get it mostly because of a homebrew game, and that's Intrepid Izzy, which is like it's Dutch made, which is cool to begin with. Like, it's actually made for the Dreamcast and ported to PS5, PS4, and PC, I believe. So you can actually play it on actual hardware, and like it's great. Like, I want to play this. I want to learn the speedrun of it down the line, and that no one has routed it yet, actually. So, but the Dreamcast needs more love.
Yeah. Well, keep us posted on the Intrepid Izzy speedrunning, Grump. I'm sure that the rest of the crew will be very interested and see how you're getting on with that. But yeah, it was just never a console that I got around to playing. I know it had a really, really short lifespan before Sega dropped out the console market. But it just, I guess, given when it came out as well, because it was, 25 years ago next year, 24 years ago. So it was when I was still in my early to mid teenage years without an income. So not able to go and get my own console. I had to rely on, please, can I have it as a Christmas present, etc., which we just never got around to with the Dreamcast.
It was not the cheapest console, to say the least. And the problem back then, like, you had such steep competition as well.
Yes, very much so.
I was in the same situation. Like, I mean, you had the Dreamcast, you had GameCube, PlayStation 2, and you had the Xbox. Like, 4 consoles that are competing over, the same demographic basically, and not having owned a Sega console at that point yet, I made a poor life choice. Let's put it that way, to buy an Xbox instead. On the plus side, we did get one of the better Sega games ever in Jet Set Radio Future.
Yes, that is a very good game. Yeah, so I mean, the Xbox did kind of give you that little taster of what a further generation of Sega consoles would be like, with things like Jet Set Radio Future, with Panzer Dragoon Auto, which is, it's ball-achingly hard at some points. It's very, very fun. Really, really good game, but really, really, really tough. And Toe Jam and L3, Everyone forgets that there's a third Toe Jam and Earl game that came out on the Xbox, and it had actual randomly generated levels. It just blows my mind. But incredible, just incredible work. But yeah, so Dreamcast anniversary. I can't believe it's been nearly a quarter century since Sega released their final console. Well, their final proper console. Of course, they've done the mini consoles in the last few years, but their final proper console. And
it makes me feel bad.
Yeah, it makes me really wonder what the landscape would look like with Sega still on board. Because there is something about, and as I said that at the very start of the podcast, there's something about Sega games being so out there and covering such a large ground of different genres, different visual styles, different musical styles, that if they had really kind of focused and on what the Dreamcast did best, with all of its unique features, as in like the giant access to the online portal, the VMUs, etc., the surprisingly good quality controllers, because I say I've never played a Dreamcast, which is true, but the controllers I have certainly handled, as people who may know me, I do like me a good controller. And those controllers are very, very comfortable, very, very hard wearing as well. I believe that they have a different mechanism in their analog sticks, which means that they suffer from drift significantly less compared to basically every other analog stick that's ever existed on any console ever. So that's my experience with that bad boy. But yeah, Sega, I think the world could learn from Sega 25 years ago.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as you mentioned, like the games are just so different. As well on the Sega consoles on their own, like they really have their own identity. Well, these days it just all blends in together basically, and that's a shame, honestly.
Yeah. But that's not to say that Sega aren't guilty of that sometimes as well, because Sega, from my perspective anyway, Sega very, very neglectful of their wide swathe of older IPs that have just kind of died a death, or they may have seen a little bit of a, putting a toe in the water very, very quickly and then pull it back out and then not be seen again. And it's taken other companies like .mu, like SegaCrew to do things like Streets of Rage 4, to do things like Wonder Boy, The Dragon's Trap. The Panzer Dragoon remake came out, Addict's Kid, and they're all Sega licensed but not actual Sega games. So we really could do with another Shinobi.
No, absolutely. I'm pretty sure a few people here agree with that one. But as you're mentioning Shinobi and like doing with a new version of things, we got a new version of a specific Genesis game coming up again.
Yeah, this was I remember hearing about this a couple of months back on I think it was a limited run announcement, but Disney's Gargoyles is being remastered. Not just it's a genuine remaster as well, because they're re-releasing it with 2 graphical modes, very, very similar to how they did with Dragon's Trap, very similar to how they did with the Alex Kidd remake that came out recently, where they have the standard 16-bit looking game, and then you press a button and boom, it's lovely high resolution sprite work.
I love it when they do that. I really love it when they do that. Like it still honors the old style of game, but you also know that the game is still intact. Like even in new graphics, like you're still playing the old game, and the old game is good quality. Like it's a really fun game.
Yes, I did enjoy that with Dragon's Trap as well, with just being able to switch, and it's still feeling like the Mega Drive original. Yes, I said Mega Drive, chat. Yes, I know. Don't judge me. Excuse me. So yeah, hopefully we'll have maybe a little bit of balancing on the Gargoyles game, because that did get a little rough at certain points, and that's something that I do hope a lot more remasters pay attention to, that they do some nice quality of life changes without getting rid of the character and the quirks of the older games.
Or generally with how it played as well. Like often they are classic for a reason, like people have good memories because it played well or something like that. And if a remaster fills too much with that, that's not good. That's not good.
And they did have Keith David reprise his role as Goliath on the trailer, and just the whole "We are gargoyles" thing is just, it just sends me back to 1994, watching that surprisingly good quality, very, very dark TV show with all the Scottish stereotypes that you could ever imagine. It's wonderful.
Yeah, for me, Gargoyles was never really a thing. Like Dutch TV just was not that great, I guess, when it comes to these kind of series or these kind of cartoons.
Yeah, you say that, but you make up for it by being wonderfully chilled out people.
That's true. We didn't have gargoyles, so we didn't get scarred back then.
Yes, the downfall of British society and American society. Disney's Gargoyles. You heard it here first.
Back.
You heard it here.
Gargoyles caused Brexit.
Gargoyles caused Brexit. Damn you, Keith David! Damn you! What the hell is this? Ridiculous. Is there any other games in that kind of similar Disney? Any similar Disney games that you think could do with a remaster for modern consoles, Grump? Because I know that you do run a lot of those cartoony games.
I'm running cartoony games, but Disney games as a whole, like I mean, they've already done the most basic of or basic. It sounds bad like that. Like the most usual candidates or suspects. With, for instance, Lion King and what else did they do? Aladdin, which also is they're great games.
I mean, you
But
say Lion King's
but
a great game. Let's not go that far on Lion King.
I mean, I liked it as a kid. Let's put it that way. But I played the PC version, so I
Oh,
mean,
okay,
what can I
sure.
say? What
Yeah,
can I
that's
say?
fair. That's fair.
But yeah, there's actually a few games that I think would be really interesting for it, and that's basically the Donald games that were on the Genesis or Mega Drive or
Crack Shot and Mario
like
Mallard, yeah?
if I'm going down that rabbit hole, I'm going to be using multiple names here, but I'm particularly fond of let's see, I think yeah, in Europe it's Donald and Maui Mallard. And in the US, it's Maui Mallard in Cold Shadow.
I just name conventions across the world just
They just
very
didn't
stupid.
think Donald Duck, was cool enough, so they went for Cold Shadow instead. I mean,
Donald
it's somewhat
Duck
fair.
is so cool, he doesn't wear trousers. That's how cool he is. Right? Because
I'm pretty sure I'll be cool as well.
if you could get away every single day walking around with no trousers on because you're that cool, you'd do it 100%.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
there's more Donald games that I actually quite interested, in, like Quackshot as well. Like I did try to play that a bit and did try the speedrun stretch a bit, and that's hard. That's a difficult game.
Yeah, it is a surprisingly tough game. I do remember Yeah, this is how old I am. I do remember renting it for the Mega Drive back many, many moons ago, and I do remember just. I guess because it's kind of a proto Metroidvania in some way, because it's a lot more exploration, getting certain items to progress with movement, etc., etc. And being like 5, 6 years old at the time, maybe a tiny bit older, you can understand why an idiot like me would get confused at those type of things. Looking back on it and having played it somewhat more recently, oh my god, I just got attacked by a moth. Yeah, it's certainly still a toughie. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that Disney could make a bit of a splash with the re-releasing and remastering of a few more games.
Oh, absolutely.
Stuff like Aladdin. I mean, Aladdin for the Mega Drive looks beautiful. Anyways, imagine that with the actual cell animation that
Yeah.
that was used to make the film. Just imagine how gorgeous that's going to look with all those animations, with all those background details, just looking astounding. I just think it would be glorious.
It would look amazing. I'm just not expecting it because they have just recently done those whole collection stuff already
Yeah,
as re-releases.
that
So
is true. So probably another
no,
10 years before we wait till that happens. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah. Other than that, to move on from Disney stuff, there's another game, or maybe two games actually, that will be releasing relatively soon, and like this will be the first time that the US folk will be able to play it as a home port, which it will be Sega Racing Classic 2, or otherwise known as Daytona USA 2.
Daytona. Everyone loves a little bit of Daytona.
Yeah, but I'm actually amazed that the US didn't have a home port of that. I didn't know that.
Well, there's still plenty of Sega stuff that never really left Japanese shores. I think the most obvious one is Sega Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, I know it's
Yeah.
a bit of a weird setup, but that never left Japan at all. So every version that you play with it is still in its original Japanese guise, and of course Daytona USA 2, Fighting Vipers 2, similar situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
No,
interesting. How,
as Europeans, we did have Daytona USA 2.
that I didn't know. That's really interesting.
Europe and Japan had it. It wasn't the USA, like Daytona USA, that got it. And that's
Ah,
weird to me.
back at US.
But nowadays, they're not allowed to call it Daytona USA 2 anymore. There's some licensing issues going around. So that's why it's now known as Sega Racing Classic 2. And that's Uh,
Is
bit
that
of a downer. Like, how would you yell that in the opening screen? You know?
Sega ring? No, no, it doesn't have the same ring to it, does it?
No, it doesn't work.
That is sad. That is sad. But
But
look, we have to take the good with the bad when they come with us, right? We were actually going to get it released in the US, even though it's got a slight name change. It doesn't have the announcement like everyone wants it to have. But we get to play it, but it doesn't have the announcement. You take the good, take the bad, and then you had etc. etc. Is that being
they're just
released as a standalone, or is that coming as part of a mini game?
No, to be able to play the main game like Sega Racing Classic 2, you'll have to buy Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name, the Yakuza spin-off. Because it will be a part of the arcade games within that game. So while you're getting it, are you really getting it without buying something else?
No, that's a fair point. But then again, if you were on the fence about buying like Dragon Gaiden, then maybe this will tip you over the edge and go, actually, yeah, this is what will make me commit to buying this game, the first ever port in the US of these two games that I've never played before. You know?
Or maybe you'll just buy it for Sega Racing Classic 2. You just beeline to the arcade there and just only play that and fuck with the metrics of Sega.
Yeah, screw you.
Which would be great. Do that.
You should have done this 20 years ago.
But yeah, the Yakuza series as well, like has always been a really interesting series to me, and like this spin-off is releasing in November, so we still are like 2 months off. But yeah, it's just cool that they add mini games like this, like they did it in previous games as well, I believe. Like you have full-fledged ports of like arcade games or whatnot from Sega within the game, and yeah, it's just cool how they try to make or manage to make the world always feel so alive.
It's having less experience with the Yakuza Like a Dragon games than probably most people in the chat, because I'm aware that there's some big fans of this series in the chat. My entire experience is Yakuza Kiwami, the very first remake. Although I was briefly talking about this last night to Grump that I was working in a video game shop when the original Yakuza came out for the PS2 and kind of liked the look of it, but just never really got around to playing it. I regret that because Yakuza Kiwami is a very, very fun, very silly game, and it's as JRPG as it gets, but just it's a JRPG plus Streets of Rage essentially. Why it didn't take off as well as it did, why it didn't take off that well initially, I don't necessarily know. And of course, the subsequent games really blew the series into the modern gaming lexicon as well. I do have a copy of Dead Souls on my PS3, which I'm very tempted to play casually on a stream at some point. So maybe watch this space and you maybe get me beating up a couple of zombies as some scary Japanese mafioso. But yeah.
That was like that spin-off, like the Zero, Yakuza Zero or something?
I think Yakuza Yakuza Dead Souls is a spin-off. Similar to kind of that era. There seemed to be a lot of zombie spin-offs, so like things like Call of Duty Zombies, Undead Nightmare, Red Dead Redemption, Dead Souls, and Yakuza. It just seemed to be maybe jumping on the bandwagon, but I mean RGG do seem to know what they're doing with basically everything that they've ever released. So maybe it will be a fun game. Maybe it will just be a weird little side event for me playing out on the stream at some point. But oh well, it could be. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. And speaking of RGG, they do have happening in a little under a week's time their announcement summit taking place. You'll be able to find that on YouTube, where I think they're going to be doing a bit more of a deep dive into the man who erased his name. And a few other things to do with Yakuza. Again, my experience with Yakuza is maybe not as much as the people in the chat, so hopefully that'll excite you, get you to go find their channel at some point. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I'm not that big on Yakuza myself either. Like I've always been really interested in the game and I do want to play it. Like, but I don't know where to start. There's so many.
I would recommend starting with Yakuza Kiwami. Kiryu-chan! It's just Majima everywhere is hilarious. Just out of nowhere, and you either want to run towards him or you want to run the hell away. But yeah, Majima is just wonderful. It's a really good game. I should play it again. It's a really good game. It's just silly fun. It's irreverent. It's got some really touching moments, but it's also just stupidly fucking funny. Yeah, it's great. Everyone should play Yakuza games. Do it. Do it for me. Do it for Jimmy. You know you want to.
Do it for Jimmy.
Go on.
I should
Come
do
on.
it for Jimmy.
Do it.
I'll do it for Jimmy. I'll play it.
Yes. Thank you.
But yeah, on to a few. I mean, this is like of course, the release of Like a Dragon Gaiden and the man who erased his name, and with that, the home port of Daytona USA 2 or Sega Racing Classic 2. I don't like that. But there's of course a few other games that will be releasing in the next month or two thereabouts, like Total War Pharaoh.
Yeah, that's coming out on the 11th of October. It just really puts paid to what we said a couple of times throughout the stream. There's just so much variety in the Sega release schedule. Because as we've mentioned, we've got Gargoyles Remastered coming out soon. We've got a JRPG, but with beat 'em up elements in Like a Dragon. We've got real-time strategy in the Total War series coming out. I remember Total War Rome being featured on a television show in the UK. I think it was called Time Commanders. And I think it might have been the bassist or guitarist of Cradle of Filth, of all people, was part of that TV show. Don't ask me why I know this bullshit. It's such a ridiculous thing. But yeah, and I do remember watching it and seeing all the absolutely wonderful graphics. They look really shit nowadays, but the wonderful graphics and getting like, oh my god, I can go and pretend to be a general in ancient Rome. Played it, had a lot of fun. Just had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, but it's just Total War has always been impressive in that sense, like being able to command such big armies, and it's just working. You know, way back when you just had the smaller scale RTS games like Command & Conquer and such. But Total War was just literally on a different scale. And it was great. And I'm glad that the series still exists and that it's branching out into all kinds of different universes as well. Like with Warhammer universe, Warhammer 40k, and now more Egypt style in Pharaoh.
I tell you what, though, they really missed a trick by not calling it Total Warhammer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Total War Warhammer? What the shit? No, mate. You call it Total Warhammer and everyone will be happy. Why did you let us down like this? Damn you, Creative Assembly.
Just imagine the confusion, though. Like, if they would call Total Warhammer 40k, what happened to all the 39k 999 other games?
Why is there such a range of sequels?
It must be successful. Like, you must buy it. It's a good game. There's so many out there already.
We think the Final Fantasy series has had a lot of games. Nah, mate. Warhammer 40,000 has had 40,000 of the bastards. I never really got into Warhammer 40k. I kind of like the I like the stylings of Warhammer Fantasy, but they're really just kind of aping a lot of the fantasy stuff that you get from Dungeons and Dragons in the 1980s. But 40k, I love the worlds, but the actual miniature game, I guess, it just never really interested me.
You needed to have people around you that played it to actually have like. To get into it, because otherwise, if you don't have anyone to play with or a community that plays it, then why are you getting the figurines? You know, like the figurines are cool, and I actually got some myself back in the days because I had a friend that played it, but like I was a complete noob at it, obviously, and the games that are the it's a trend in my life, or like the silver lining of my life. I made the poor life choice to pick Dark Elder, which wasn't the greatest out of the races that you could pick, but it was cool. Like it was edgy. Like they're like elves, but dark. They just sucked.
What a
just
shock!
Sucked. But I mean, it was fun. It was fun painting them. A little bit of busy work, you know. And it's still impressive that people do it and the creations that they come up with. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
I love the world. I love the lore. I love the games around Warhammer, and I'm really glad that Total War, of course, did this as well with both Warhammer and 40k.
Yes, and long may those bad boys continue, and hopefully they're not going to ruin their the kind of the goodwill that they've generated with these games with their DLC plans, because I know that didn't necessarily go down too well. But we shall not dwell on the bad things. We shall look at the positive things, because Sega is pretty damn good.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and speaking of pretty damn good, the classic Football Manager 24 is coming out on the 6th of November 2023. I believe this is the last release that Football Manager are going to be doing on the current game engine, and then next year is going to be a brand new game engine, including women players for the first time. Yeah, given that you are European, Grump, I'm assuming that you're a football guy.
Get this crack away from me.
Again, for our American viewers, football is what you call soccer, and we call football like proper people.
Yeah. So it's not like a hand egg manager for 24. No, it's like actually football. Like you kick ball with foot. But obviously, here in the Netherlands, most people do grow up with some football or soccer, if you want to get American about it. But like I'm not like a hardcore supporter of a specific team. Like I am supporting for the Dutch people, if there's any Dutch people here. I do support Sparta Rotterdam, which is like the small one of the smaller teams in the city of Rotterdam, and that basically came out of a running gag as well. Like I had some. Maybe some other people are a bit more familiar with it. Like I was on the campsite and there were some Feyenoord fans next to us, and they just asked me, like I was like 13 years old, like what team do you support? Because my dad supported Ajax and my brother supported my hometown team of NEC, and they just asked like what do you support? And I'm like, I don't really care. Like I just want to see a good match. A good fun match. That's important for me. And then they were like, oh yeah, you just have to support Sparta. And I was like, why Sparta? And they were like, oh yeah, it's because if you get like a season pass, you get extra your money's worth, because they are always in relegation matches. I was like, okay, sounds valid. I'll start following them. So since then I am following that team, and it's a fun team. Like, but I'm not like a hardcore supporter. Like, I don't have any of the rivalry stuff, and of course the Dutch team and general European matches. It's fun to watch. How about you, Dan?
Oh, that's a very good question. So, as a Brit, I kind of follow the England team where I can. I am also a Tottenham Hotspur supporter. Yes, I'm aware that does put me in the firing line for basically every insult that could ever come from any other English football fans. I don't care. I like Tottenham. I'm similar to Grump in this case, is that I'm not a diehard fan. So I'm the type of person who goes, if we win, hooray, we won. And if we lose, it's like, oh, well, it's not the end of the world. Yes, I was very sad that Harry Kane went to Bayern Munich. Yes, I am very happy that we got James Maddison. Yes, I'm very happy that we got Angie from Celtic. And hopefully we aren't going to go and just fuck all the goodwill into the fire like we've done over the last few years. So here's to Tottenham not screwing things up again. Let's see, hopefully that works.
For now.
For now, yeah. Next year, all cards are off the table, mate. It's just going to happen, and we're just probably going to be sinking through the division so fast we'll break the sound barrier. But
the owners of Tottenham are something else, honestly. But when it comes to Football Manager, like you also have quite a history in that, don't you?
Oh golly, yeah. So Football Manager was born out of a series that was published by Eidos called Championship Manager, and I think it changed in about 2001, 2002 to Football Manager when Sega took the license. And Championship Manager still continued on, but it was a shell of its former self. But the original Championship Manager, oh golly, just so much time spent just playing that game. I remember, and again, please excuse my language on here. I have sworn a couple of times here, and I'm going to swear again in a few seconds, but there's a very good reason behind it. In Championship Manager, the later ones in the 1990s, they featured a pretty good player. If you were able to buy him and train him up a little bit, he was a very, very strong player, and his name was Argelico Fucks. I am not kidding. Have a look at his name, Argelico Fucks, Fucks. Yes, I'm deadly serious. He was in that Championship Manager, and every time, like any reasonable 12-year-old would do, I would search up that player, I would try and buy him, and I would have in my team a Fucks. Yes.
That alone is worth it, honestly.
Yeah, literally worth the like 400 hours put into that game. Yeah, very, very fun. Very fun. But of course, childish. I still am childish, as you can probably tell. But as a 12-year-old, God, it was like childishness squared. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, for me as well. Like I did actually play some. Besides being childish, of course, like I'm also childish, but I did also. I think I got started with the Championship Manager as well. Actually, back in the days, like a friend recommended it to me back in high school, and then started playing Football Manager later on as well. And I'm just trying to look it up real quick if I can find it, but I believe. Yeah, Football Manager 2013, I think it's one of my most played games on Steam.
Oh my God.
Just like I just kept playing. It's just it's so addictive. It's just numbers. It's literally just numbers. You're playing with numbers, but it's so much fun.
Everyone, it's just like an Excel spreadsheet, but with a couple of people kicking the ball around.
But that's fun.
Yeah, it's
surprisingly fun.
It is fun. When you're doing it for leisure anyways. Excel spreadsheets are the work? No, thank you. Excel spreadsheets for leisure? Yes, please. I'm going to quickly pick up on something that I've just been put into the chat. So Shima Gabriel, our resident Brazilian king, has put into the chat that they have a coach in Brazil called Argel Fuchs. Argel Fuchs is Argelico Fucks. He changed his name in the year 2020 because he said that the spelling of his name should have been Fuchs, but it was incorrectly entered into the birth registry. So he changed his name from Fuchs to Fuchs. And that is him. That is my Championship Manager king. Argel Fuchs is Argelico Fuchs. So thank you, Shima, for proving me right.
Oh, that's actually awesome. I'm glad he's still around. Yeah,
I think he's ABC coach. Don't quote me on that one. I don't know much about Brazilian football.
Oh, and he better be Sheem. He better be still be pronounced Fox.
Oh, that's hilarious. Such a small world, isn't it? Yeah, speaking of, what are we talking about? Fucks. Yeah, so giving lots of fucks. Sonic Frontiers is going to be releasing its third content update called The Final Horizon on September the 28th. There's just been a range of additional trailers released for this, including one that has character themes for Knuckles, Amy, and Tails. And they're pretty cool. I don't think Knuckles really fits his kind of like lumbering character, but it's a decent tune. And Sonic Frontiers is going to get its kind of final chunk of content. See, Grump, we have played numerous games together. We've talked numerous times. I don't know how much of a Sonic fan you are.
I'm mostly fan of the old style 2D Sonics. Not a big fan. It's a bit of a stretch because I just haven't played many of the 3D Sonics. I have been interested in, of course, 2006, because why wouldn't I be? Yeah. Of course, the 3D Sonics got a certain reputation, like that they just were mid to bad. And then Sonic Mania was released, of course, and like that was excellent. Like I played that so much because it was just my thing. Like it's what. When I started playing Sega games on an emulator, I started playing with Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Knuckles, that kind of stuff. So that was the thing that I associate like Sega with and Sonic with, and that's why Mania just did it for me, and for a lot of people, obviously. But I'm glad that Sonic Frontiers basically broke through that 3D stigma of Sonic 3D games are not that great anymore, because there were great games. I believe even Sonic Colors on the GameCube or Wii or something was still a really good game as well. But just the later ones, what was called with
Sonic Forces.
muscular knuckles with shoal and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I believe that's Forces or something like that. Or Boom. That was Boom. Sonic Boom.
Sonic Boom was widely panned. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm just glad that Sonic managed to break through that stigma again and actually managed to fit in an open world game with a Sonic team.
Yeah. So
and that's impressive.
Yeah, so Sonic Forces, a good friend of mine, RPG Hidden Wizard, described Sonic Forces as being aggressively average. And I think that's a really accurate representation of what that game is. It exists, it's okay, but it doesn't do anything great, it doesn't do anything terribly. It's just literally middle line all the way through. It's got a couple of really good songs, don't get me wrong. But... Yes, sorry, Shiba. Yes, it's the same person. Yeah, but they've changed their name in 2020 because of the issues. So yeah, hilarious stuff. But yeah, so Sonic Forces, aggressively average. Sonic Frontiers, I like Sonic Frontiers a lot because no matter where you go in the game, there's always something to do. There's never any downtime. You're always maybe 5 seconds away from either an enemy to defeat or a rail to slide over or some boosters or something to claim. Not Booster Chain. Booster Chain's here with us today. But some boosters or something to climb or one of the kind of virtual reality zones, there's just so much little bits and pieces that you can do in that game. Now, one of the things I dislike a lot about open world games, and going on to another Jimmy rant now, is that you always get these things about, if you can see it in the distance, you can go there. But the problem is that between here and there's nothing. And that is something that I think impacts almost every single open world game that I've ever had the fortune/misfortune of playing. Sonic Frontiers doesn't have that problem. You're always a couple of steps away from something that's going to keep you occupied, either with, it's a platforming challenge, it's a dash challenge, it's an enemy to take out. And it's a really good usage of a very, I'd say, often ill-used concept of the open world game, and Sonic Frontiers just does it really well. And hopefully the Final Horizon update will add even further extra stuff to it, which would be really, really nice to see.
And of course, this will bode well for the future, like that it will go this route more often, or at least with a sequel or something like that, because they do have some things to work on, honestly, with the Frontiers, like the pop-in and such. Like it's that can be quite bad at times.
Yeah,
but other than that, Other than that, like it is indeed a really good game. I really do want to play it. I have it laying around here, and it's just sitting there. Like I can play it whenever.
Yeah,
I believe himself, but I also have to play Yakuza for Jimmy. So
I'll be checking in on you every now and again. If you've not, I will be so disappointed in you.
Oh man, prepare for disappointment.
Speaking of potential disappointment, Sonic Superstars, further information has been released in regards to the multiplayer, including the unveiling of Metal Knuckles as part of the gameplay. Now, there has been a couple of previews and reports of Sonic Superstars saying that the single player, it feels very much like a classic 2D Sonic game. The multiplayer is something to be desired, and I'm just a little bit concerned about that because the whole point of this game seems to be multiplayer. And everywhere I've read, it's like, it's maybe not what we're expecting. So hopefully it's going to be able to put it through before its release date at the end of next month. This is a really, really packed schedule over the next couple of months, Sega, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. But for Sonic Superstars as well, like if so based around multiplayer, like how would that work? You're supposed to go fast. How do you go fast with multiple people at the same time?
And apparently that is what the issue is, because it's the best way I can liken from what I've read is to Micro Machines multiplayer. So with Micro Machines
Oh
multiplayer,
yeah,
if one player gets off the screen, the other player loses and then gets teleported to you and stops the game. And apparently that's what it's like with the Sonic Superstars multiplayer. If you go too far, the other person stops what they're doing and teleports to you, which just kind of apparently really interrupts the flow of the game. And those who have played 2D Sonic games do know that it's a very flow game. You have to make sure that you're timing your jumps correctly, otherwise you're going to leap straight into spikes. But if you do it just right, then you avoid everything and everything moves beautifully, which is why it makes a very, very fun and intense speedrun to watch, commentate, and play. I'd recommend you do it. So cross fingers that they're not gonna screw that one up. It's a normal Sonic. It's Sonic.
Imagine just being ready to jump and then suddenly the game stops to port the other person to you.
Yeah,
no,
can't
all
do
the
it.
momentum gone.
There.
Like you mentioned, Micro Machines, and that kind of still makes sense because it's like a versus mode, and you're basically trying to make the other one lose. Like you're trying to get ahead of them, and so it kind of makes sense. Like, but it also has that problem of indeed stopping. And again, there, like I didn't play the Mega Drive version. Let's keep it as European. I didn't play the Mega Drive version, but from what I hear from you, like it's the same as the CDI version had. Like I did still enjoy it, like that kind of first mode, but it's not great for just co-op play. So yeah, I'm curious how Sonic Superstars will pan out. Like maybe it will still be a good single player experience, but multiplayer, yeah, I'm indeed not so sure about this.
Yeah, it's still got 6 weeks to prove my jaded old body wrong.
Yeah, and other than that, speaking of all kind of Sonic releases, of course, I'm going to drop this here because, please do take this stuff with a grain of salt. There have been some leaks going around, and rumors. And this guy did get a few things right before, but there are rumors for a 2024 Sonic release, a completely new game again. So they're just pumping out Sonic games at the moment. Like Superstars is also new. Frontiers hasn't been released that long, but there's another one potentially on the horizon. But the more interesting part in this one is that besides that Sonic release, they're also hinting at representation for the Jet Set games, Comic Zone, and Guardian Heroes, and that gets my attention.
I think it's a Jet Set that really kind of sets people's ears wagging on that one. We have just had Bomb Rush Cyberpunk release, which has seen some pretty good response to it. I'm seeing reviews of 8s and 7, 8s, and 9s left, right, and centre for that one. So
it just tickles your fancy. Like if you like Jet Set games, Bomb Rush Cyberpunk completely nailed it. Like I finished the game. It is super good. The movement is excellent. And I mean, it has been a meme that there have been speedrun marathons about this stuff, like to get a Jet Set Radio Future HD. Like, I would be so happy if they would do that. I kind of don't think they will go for a new iteration, but maybe Future HD. I would be stoked.
We can but dream, good sir. We can but dream. And speaking of dreams, as if some fugue state, we are coming up to discussing a couple of things that have happened in the last few days. So on the SegaCrew channel, very, very recently, we of course had the announcement of the Sega 8 games list. That is right. That is the Sega 8 event coming up very, very soon, running 8 of a series of very, very incredible classic Sega games. And good golly, what a list it is. You care to share some of those with us, Grump?
Absolutely. Like this Sega 8 is like based around the first Sega 16 race that has ever been done. And basically tries to recapture the feel of that race. So you have a wide variety of games. Like you have Golden Axe as a beat 'em up. You have Kid Chameleon, Rocket Knight Adventures. You go racing in Outrun. You just have to finish the game there. You got Game Ground, and that one actually came to a surprise for me because I just didn't know that game. You have Beyond Oasis, which is an excellent Zelda-like game. The Wily Wars, Mega Man 3, and Shadow Dancer. Of course, we have Shadow Dancer.
Of course. Yeah, naturally. Naturally. Shout outs to Paul. Just again, it kind of comes back to a recurring theme that we've discussed over the last hour or so. That's quite upsetting that we've been talking for nearly an hour. Jesus Christ! There's so much variety, even with the older style Sega games. That you've got your beat 'em ups, you got your standard platforming games, you got your action platformers, racing games, strategy games, RPGs, shoot 'em ups, arcade games. Oh my, it's just so much variety. Just sat there in 2 hours worth of video games. It's beyond a joke. It's beyond. Yes, it's ridiculous. Just simply ridiculous. Just
Absolutely.
Everyone
Is there a game that? Is there a game that really stood out to you? Actually.
Yes, there is actually Beyond Oasis. Now, us people in Europe don't know what Beyond Oasis is. That is the story of Thor, not Legend of Thor, as some silly person in the chat a couple of days ago said. No, that is Story of Thor. That is a oh god, what's the name of the company? Ancient game, isn't it? Yuzo Koshiro. Everyone loves a little bit of Yuzo Koshiro. That's why the music's so good. But yeah. Really, really fun game to play casually. Can be a little bit confusing sometimes, but it to me, Beyond Oasis plays, looks, and feels like a much more recent console game than something that was released in 1988.
It just has that style, that graphical style. Like it basically has a cel-shaded kind of a cartoon style, and that's what makes it so great.
Yeah,
it's a shame that it did have to deal with the issue of a different name everywhere. It's like Crusader Senti all over again.
Oh golly, yeah. That's just so
that one has like 3 different names across the world as well.
We'll be picking up back on Crusader Ascension a tiny bit later. Stay tuned for that one. We got some good news about that. But yeah, it's a wonderful lineup of the Sega. I know that we've had people like JKL, Brady O. I think Beadle's been doing the practicing already, and there's plenty of people who have got lots of experience with these games from the first Sega 16 and just playing these games casually. I think Shima Gabriel, who's also in the chat, also has experience with these games. So it looks like that we've got a good portion of people who are really starting to commit to relearning these games, getting them down, and making sure that we can have a hell of a race on their hands. And you know what? I think that some silly British person may be doing commentary for the event.
Oh, may it be someone that I know? Maybe.
Possibly.
Okay.
It could be. But sadly, you might have to hear my voice for a couple of hours over the Sega 8.
Oh, it's Jimmy Emerald.
Of course, it's Jimmy Emerald. Yeah, that weird
excellent.
doppelganger.
I like the chap.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, I'll tell him you said that. He'll really appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, again, like this list looks absolutely stacked. The goals actually look really nice as well. Like because it's just 8 games instead of the 16 that you had before. Like it looks like a race that's actually manageable to learn, even though you won't go for a complete world record strats. Because I mean, you'll be doing a race, and you have like 5 weeks thereabouts to learn all of this. But still, that will be rough. But yeah, I mean, again, like what I mentioned before, like Game Ground just really stood out. Like that seemed like such a quirky little game where somewhat, I don't know, like it's so hard to describe.
It's
just
real-time
weird but
strategy
interesting.
with just a little bit more kind of like turn-based strategy with almost borderline stealth things. It's a really unique combination of gameplay mechanics, and the fact that it was released so early on in the Mega Drive's catalog, it blows my mind. And plenty of other games like that weren't released until maybe 6 or 7 years later, with things like Commandos, Desperados. It's just a really interesting type of game to play, and I would recommend people play it, even if you don't enjoy it. The fact that you get to say, I played Game Ground, this game that was released in like the early 90s, which then didn't get duplicated for another 6 or 7 years, you're not going to regret playing something as groundbreaking as that game, pun not intended. But of course, the Sega 8 isn't the only event that the SegaCrew have coming up. No. We have tons of good stuff coming up in the very, very near future. So we've already mentioned that next year is going to be the Dreamcast 25th anniversary celebration. So start your preparations for that. We, of course, are very, very close to the spookiest of all spooky times that could spooky possibly be of Segaween. Ooh, I don't have any sound effects for that one. Grump, have you got any?
Oh, I'll take a look, but let's see. Some scary sounds. Let's do Bubsy.
You're wrong.
Bubsy is scary.
Bubsy is very scary. Yeah, Bubsy is horrifying.
There you go.
Okay, so there's something.
Second week would be great. Like people come up with some really fun submissions, and the event itself. It will be a great watch or participation if you're doing it, of course.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be seeing the event debut of Baroque for the Sega Saturn.
Oh yeah,
with our delightful bearded friend Grimshins playing that bad boy that he committed so much time into playing. And yeah, got freaked out on everyone's behalf. But what a great game that is. That really deserves a lot more plaudits. But I believe that's going to be featured in that one. We're going to be potentially seeing a blind playthrough of Doom for the 32X. Whether it's the original Doom or Doom 32X Resurrection is yet to be seen. And maybe, just maybe, we may be seeing...
You submitted something.
We may be seeing a world premiere of Sacred Line 2 Jimmy's Edition. I shit you not.
Jimmy's Edition.
It has my name on the title screen.
That's true.
I'm assuming that's it. I have not played Sacred Line 2. I have owned it for over a year now as a ROM. I've not played it. I have no idea how long it's going to be. If anyone who may remember the 2001 Segaween with me at 3 o'clock in the morning, very sleep deprived, basically hallucinating my tits off, playing the original Sacred Line with Faust and Goxarar and Grimshins as my peanut gallery. You may remember that was bonkers. I would recommend that you hang around for Segaween to see that and all the other great games that we should hopefully have going on there as well. But there's still plenty of time to submit.
Yeah, that was also about to mention. Like, if you just want to be a part of it, you have until the 29th of September to submit to this event. So you have a bit more than 2 weeks. So check out what fun Sega games you can think of, or like on Sega consoles that would fit spooky, scary qualities of Segaween.
And spooky, scary skeletons. They'll shiver down your spine.
Yeah, I mean, it maybe that's your thing. Like, maybe it just has one skeleton. I mean, or maybe it's just Mr. Bones and you are the skeleton. It's also an option. Or maybe you just want to play as some weird purple dinosaur that is hunting little kids in the game with the Barney's hide and seek adventure.
Wow,
it's also scary.
That sounds like a fever dream. I remember reading a couple of days ago that one of the most popular games to be shown at any SegaCrew events is Haunting starring Poltergeist, which of course is quite apt considering that we are coming up for Spooky Month. So I can't see it's been submitted yet. Anyone wants to have a try of Haunting starring Poltergeist, bump up those numbers for the featuring on the SegaCrew? You've got the opportunity to do so in a few weeks' time. You should do it. Come on.
Submit.
Do it. Submit to SegaCrew. Yeah, awesome.
But Booster, there's no Discord command. Fix it. Do it.
Fix it.
Submit.
Fix it, SegaCrew. Yes. Amazing.
So Segaween, of course, having design as well, but we have a very, very, we have an event coming up like just this weekend. Like it's in 2 days. This Saturday.
It's literally in like 48 hours. No, it's less than 48 hours now. It's actually less than 48 hours. It's hold on.
Is it 40 hours?
Yeah, 40 hours. Literally 40 hours here
man,
on
that's perfect.
SegaCrew. We have 40 years, 40 games celebrating 40 years worth of Sega. There's 40 years worth of Sega video games and consoles. And oh my gosh, there's a lot of very, very good games on here. There's a lot of Tosh on here too, but there's a lot of very, very good games.
And the best part is just that it just spans all over all the consoles. Like when they made the schedule, they made sure to have all the consoles or most of the consoles, represented during this event.
Yes,
So
it's
insane.
Yeah, we are starting all the way back through time, back to 1983 with the FG1000. Yes, pre-master system, all the way up to the PS5 as well.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we are not fucking around here, people. We are really, really going through the entire history of Sega and their consoles. And I think that there is a little block that's been designed seemingly with a certain Dutch person in mind.
Yeah, and Booster already mentioned it.
Yeah.
There is indeed a Game Gear block. And I really like the Game Gear. Like I mentioned it earlier, it just surprised me so much, and the entire library is just so good. I have a lot more games in my repertoire, but this is going to be good. I mean, you're also starring in it with Chakan. Oh god,
Something like that. Anyways,
oh
yeah.
god.
Oh god, indeed, yes.
We got some Ninja Gaiden race there with me and Infinite Mystery, which is excellent. Like we tried to get this one going for Games on Quick for a few years now. So it's good that it's all the fun that we're now facing off against each other, and both playing on hardware as well. I got the Temper Junior run in there, Lost World, Jurassic Park, and then a booster got Silvantail. And Silvantail is so great. Like it's such an amazing game, like having like the Zelda-like game on your Game Gear, like full color. It's such a good game.
I am looking forward to seeing Paul Saltine struggle through Wild Woody. If anyone knows Wild Woody, don't tell anyone else about it. If you don't know Wild Woody, you're in for a treat. Watch that game. It's something.
He's going to try to harm himself or something. Like he's also going to play Seaman.
Nice.
He's going to be talking to that fish guy for 2.5 hours.
I hope he doesn't get too salty. Grim.
I don't have a drum roll kind of sound effects, sadly, but. But yeah, I don't know. There's just so many good games here. Like Dreamcast, we do have a few games featured as well. Blue Stinger, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Tokyo Bus Guide. Wait, Tokyo Bus Guide? What's Tokyo Bus Guide?
Tokyo Bus Guide. Tokyo Bus Guide. Wow, I honestly don't know. We will see what that is. We'll leave that as a little surprise for the viewing public. To determine on what on earth that could potentially be. Apparently 35
It sounds interesting to me.
Very interesting. I see you in the chat, Shiva. I see you there.
I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah.
We got some absolute classics as well on the Master System. Land of Illusion, Lion King, Alex Kidd in Shinobi World, Clax. Clax is like...
Clax.
Oh.
Everyone loves Clax.
I played the Atari Lynx version. I don't love Clax. And that's mostly because the Atari Lynx version, right. We all know the Game Gear here. Just the Atari Lynx is about the same, right? Same kind of style, except, so you have your D-pad on the left side, you have a 1 and 2 button on the right side, and you have that both on the bottom and on the top part of the console. So if you're left-handed, you can just flip it around, and you have the button on your thumb side again. That's excellent. Like they were ahead of their time. But there are a few games for the Atari Lynx that you just have to hold the console like in vertical mode, and that just doesn't work.
Yeah,
It just doesn't
it's
work.
too thick. It's
Klax is
too
one of
long.
those.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why my Klax experience aren't as great as people who played it on the Sega console.
Yeah.
But it's still a really interesting puzzle game. We also got Golden Axe.
Yeah,
So
we got
if you want to learn
lots,
Golden
yeah.
Axe for the race, tune in.
Yeah, so there's actually two different showings of two different Golden Axe games, as quite rightly mentioned in the chat. So we've got Beadle running the Mega Drive version early on Sunday morning here in the land of Europe. And we've got L Rock playing the arcade version a little later on in the day as well. So be able to see the differences between the two games and show just how close the console version is to the arcade original. We've also got some 32X representation as well. 32X is vastly underrepresented in pretty much all of these type of events, mainly because it's only got like 50 odd games, so that your kind of your choices aren't huge.
I was about to say we have the entire library on here, but it's not that bad.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we've got about a tenth of the library, which is a really, really scary thought. With Cypherin, legendary Cypherin, legitimately one of the greatest speedrunners to ever grace God's green earth, and possibly one of the four faces of the Mount Rushmore of SegaCrew speedrunners in Cypherin. We're playing Spider-Man Web of Fire. We've got Grimshins and his delightful beard playing Virtua Racing Deluxe. We've even got Radman from Mars playing Cosmic Carnage, that weird mess of a game. But yeah, so that's part of the 32X block as well. Yeah, tons of really
and we
good
got
stuff.
this.
No.
Gimme Diamonds?
No.
No? Okay,
No.
we're not going to play Colibri.
I do not exist.
But I do want you to tell a bit about that game, because that looked really interesting and weird in a way.
It's an Ed Annunziata game. It says it all, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It's Echo the Dolphin, but you're a bird.
Okay, no, that works. It works.
You know what? If Grimshins was here, he'd be able to back me up on that statement. But yeah, Calibri is essentially Echo the Dolphin, but you're a bird instead of a fish. You know, the dolphin. Then they're not fish.
At least you're not restricted by the boundaries of water.
No, but you are restricted by the boundaries of the sky, apparently, because that's a thing. Never mind.
Oh, yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, don't fly too high.
Mm-hmm. But it's not just us here at SegaCrew who are putting on events. There's tons of great events happening throughout the world of Twitch, throughout the actual world, in different places across the planet.
And they have an event at your home country.
I mean, kind of home country, because UKSG Blue is taking place in Glasgow in Scotland on the weekend of the 23rd and 24th, which is about 7 hours away from where I am. But as some poor chump who doesn't drive, I'm not going to be walking there. No, sorry, Bob, my legs are not that good. But yeah, UKSG Blue taking place in not weekend coming, but weekend after. That's scarily coming up with a number of SegaCrew compatriots. We're going to be seeing Drakeadan, we're going to be seeing Paulister, the Mighty Argic, and HUD 601 playing various different games over the weekend in person. Going to be shown on the ESA channel as well as the UKSG's channel as well. So yeah, number of very good runs are there. Plenty of Sonic stuff, big Sonic representation. Drakeadan's playing Sparkster.
The UK is just a big Sonic representation on its own. Like, UK just seems to breed Sonic players.
Yeah, we do seem to be kind of multiplying. Well, let's say multiplying. That sounds kind of grim, but no, there's a lot of us. There are a lot of us, and they're building. They're coming to get you, Barbara. Yeah.
Yeah, and besides UKSG Blue, there's another marathon happening that same weekend that it's more in my alley, let's put it that way, which is the Big Bad Gameathon. So if you want to see some Sega games that are questionable in some way, then yeah, you're in for a treat. Generally, that entire marathon, like I've already mentioned it multiple times during this podcast. Like, I'm known for my poor life choices when it comes to games and such. So, this strikes close to home, basically. We have a few games. Like, we have Sharif playing Wirehead on the Sega CD, and just showcasing all that. I mean, that's going to be great to begin with. David TKI is playing Blastmaster 2. I'm not sure if it's really that bad, but it's worse than Blastmaster 1 at least.
Yeah, it's a comparative thing there, yeah, because the first Blastmaster is a very good game. So maybe any other games in the series can. Actually, I digress on this one a bit. The Blastmaster Zero series that got released in the last 10 years, that's very good. The first Blastmaster Zero is essentially just a newer version of the original Blaster Master, but better. It's a very good game. I'd recommend you play it when you get the chance. But yeah, Blaster Master 2, it's all right. It's all right. I wouldn't say it's a great game, but it's all right.
Okay, that's a big mid-game-a-thon in this case.
Yes.
But we also got some other weird stuff coming up, like Jungle Storm, my fellow Dutchman, who is also a bit known for running a lot of Genesis bootleg games. And he's going to be running Tiny Toon Adventures 3, which I believe is a Russian bootleg. It is wild. Those games are wild. Just check them out. There's Tempest Mask 1000. That's also in sometimes making an appearance in SegaCrew. He's going to do Mega Man for the Game Gear, which again, like, is it really bad? I liked it. It was good, but it's just not what you expect. It's just small Mega Man.
Yeah, the size of the screen and the weird scrolling certainly is not intuitive. I know that we have a couple of people in the chat who are fans of the Game Gear Mega Man version. I liked it. I, again, wouldn't say it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I do love me some sliced bread, but
sliced bread is great.
Sliced bread. And the next highlight that we've got, I don't realize. I didn't realize until I was talking to Grum yesterday how excited I was about this one, because it's an all dungeons race of Virtual Hydlide. Now, if you know about Virtual Hydlide, you know that game truly is a hunk of shit. Oh my god, it runs at negative frames per second.
Yeah.
It sucks the soul out of your body and spits it out onto the floor like a proverb that I can't think of right now. Okay, but what makes this so particularly interesting to me is that the runners are Mechalink, well-known speedrunner, and Zophar. And if you are a denizen of the internet from 1998, you all know who Zophar is. Yes, it's that Zophar, the emulation website guy. Zophar.
It's amazing that he's still around doing this kind of stuff, you know?
What the hell? This is a guy from like 25 years ago who was literally my introduction into the world of emulation. He's still fucking around. What the hell? What happened to my voice then? Sorry.
But then you would question why he's going to play Virtual Hydlide all dungeons.
Maybe he's a masochist, and maybe that's why he's still on the internet 25 years later trying to do shit like that.
That's valid. That's absolutely valid.
Yeah, just the fact that it's that Zophar back on the internet playing live speed runs. My brain doesn't like that. My brain loves it, but conversely doesn't like that. It's just weird. It's just weird. The internet, man. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought?
No, but absolutely check out this marathon as well for the Sega representation, of course, but also in general, like it's always a blast. Like there's so much weird stuff out there. You'd be amazed. You'd be amazed. And
speaking of blast, of course, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, we do know that a lot of the people here watching today, listening in the future, are here for speedrunning information and are speedrunners themselves. So it would be amiss of us not to give a couple of shout outs to some highlights that's been going on in the world of speedrunning over the last couple of weeks. Now, I think that the biggest news really is that there's a new Super Mario Brothers world record. I kid. But actually, there is a new Sonic 2 glitched world record that happened about a week ago. Eandis took his existing world record of 13 minutes 59 seconds and brought it down to 13 minutes 52. It is less than a minute between the possible sum of best and the actual world record now with Sonic 2. There is still bonkers time saves to be had, but some of those are so incredibly tough and require so many pauses that it looks like the stream's crashing. It's just bonkers how Eandis has taken this game, which quite recently didn't think that it could be brought down in human capabilities underneath 14 minutes, and he's 8 seconds underneath there with still time to save. Bonkers.
It's super
Absolutely
impressive.
Bonkers.
Like that speedrun is just so difficult to follow because of all the glitches. It's insane. Like, props to him.
And you get people like Joey Baby who's still bumping and grinding and clanging and banging, trying to get that time down. Eandis is just another level above anyone at the moment. And I think that world record could be really, really brought down considerably. And I think it will be done quite soon. It'd be surprised me if it doesn't. It's a pretty scary run now. And the run itself is vastly different to how it was literally 3 years ago. There's just so much in the way of new tech, new things that weren't even considered in the TAS before. And it's just been introduced into the run, and people have found out ways to do it in real life. Just really, really ridiculous how that has happened.
It's really impressive that they've changed it up so much.
Yeah. Streets of Rage 2, there's been some activity on the max boards. There's been new world records on very easy and the mania categories. I know that there's still plenty of activity, particularly on that max board now. Seems to be a little bit less happening on the other characters. So if you've got an interest in speedrunning a really, really good video game, because as we're all aware, Streets of Rage 2 is one of the greatest video games of all time, get yourself into Streets of Rage 2 speedrunning. Very, very fun. Lots of different options, lots of different resources to be able to learn it. You've certainly got a good time there. But yeah, Max has seen a lot of activity, new world records quite recently.
Yeah, besides all of that, there's another Sonic game that had a record broken, which is Sonic and Knuckles, the glitchless Knuckles. I'm not sure exactly what time it was. Do you have that one?
I believe it was 1808. Let me check that, because it was actually by my very good British friend T, or T-Pat, or Tej as everyone calls him. Let me have a check of that one just to make sure that we can do a proper, quality level of journalistic reporting. With an internet search, just like proper journalists.
I mean, that's why we're doing a podcast. That's why we don't have a camera.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. They can hear the keyboard typing in the background, just going tippity tap tap. I am a Pratt. Where is it gone? What's it not showing? There it is. No, it's not showing. It's not showing. Oh my god, internet.
Okay, I know. While you're looking that one up, I'm just going on to the next one, because this one is quite interesting to me, because I tried to pick this game up as well, and I only played it I think now 6 months ago thereabouts for a challenge, finishing 4 games in February, which is Crusader of Sanity, which has its record broken after 3 years by not a small margin either. Like, it went from a 35-31 to a 35-13 by Crazy Kong. That's impressive. Like, that speedrun is already crazy as it is. It's a great game, great speedrun, but to shave off so much time on something that's already this crazy, I'm impressed.
I've got it. The time is 18 minutes and 8 seconds. I was right. My memory did not fail me, but my confidence did instead.
I mean, the confidence, and we're getting old here.
We are getting old.
We have to verify. We're
falling apart. But yeah, 18 minutes and 8 seconds for T-Pat's new Sonic and Knuckles glitchless Knuckles world record. Yeah, Crusader Ascenti or Ragnar or Soleil, whichever part of the world you're from. Yeah, first time in 3 years that world record has been.
It's impressive.
Yeah, and if you've ever seen the speed run for Crusader Ascenti, it's a little broken.
Just a tiny bit.
Yeah, basically. The flaws,
the glitches are so fun to do, though. The glitches are so fun too.
walls are seemingly walkable, as in like walking on rules, Gene Kelly style. Yeah, just
Yeah.
ridiculous scenes. Jeff really is.
Why go through these stages normally if you can just walk on the trees?
Indeed,
Huh?
indeed. But it's one of those funner speed runs because again, I think we were talking about this yesterday, Graham. That there are some speed runs where you just go through the walls and just walk, and it's dull as hell. Whereas this one is actually really interesting because you have to be really particular with where you're positioning yourself to go inbounds and out of bounds, and making sure that you're skipping bits and pieces. And it's just a really interesting speed run to watch. And I think I wish more people would run it, and I wish more people would demonstrate it on events. So
It's also because it's not just the wall walking that makes it good, but you also have like speed boosts and everything. You're just bouncing around some stages, trying to maintain a speed boost that you've gotten. It's crazy.
yeah, more people should play it.
It's varied enough to be a really interesting speedrun to watch because as you mentioned, like we talked about yesterday, some speedruns you just go to the roof of a stage and you just walk there and you're done and not much happens. It's fun to see. It's cool to see, of course, that it can be done. But it's from an entertainment kind of point of view, it's But Crusader of Sentinel just is excellent. It's such a good cool speedrun to watch. And then we also have some new leaderboards that came up recently, done by our very own Grimshins, which is for Baroque on the Sega Saturn. And really, I believe there's already 3 people that submitted a run to it.
Yeah, it's seen quite a lot of very, very early activity. And most people were waiting for the English patch to be released for the Saturn version, which is very similar to the PlayStation version. I think there are some differences. We'll have to double check with Grim in regards to those ones there, because he is Le Baroque Master. And as we are aware, if it's not broke, you don't have to fix it. Yep. I said that terrible joke.
Yeah.
I'm done.
No.
But yeah, so if you want to find a really, really good Saturn game that's very unique in its design and how to play it, then Baroque has a leaderboard there for you. So if you want to play and learn how to speedrun it, go and grab Grim. I'm sure go and grab Grim. That's a iteration and a half, isn't it? I'm sure that he will not mind teaching you everything that he knows and some more.
Pull up a chair.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes, he is the chairman of the board. Literally, in this case, get it? I embarrass myself sometimes. I'm going to go cry in a minute.
You're called out now. Done. Gonged out. Done. Okay, so
done.
Oh no, we have a soundboard. It's dangerous.
Yeah, what the hell? And then I think it's basically our final bit of the night is that, again, close to both of our hearts, that you will be running this weekend. Squillerbob has dropped the Tempo Junior task to 11 minutes and 59 seconds, breaking that 12-minute barrier for the very first time.
So with the perfect gameplay, you can be below 12 minutes. But I think even Squillybob is still looking to break that the 30-minute barrier first. But yeah, this is the first time that he has been making a task, and he got a really good time on Tempo Junior. It's impressive.
You know, Squillybob is just a really interesting speedrunner because he kind of comes from nowhere, right? Because he's based in Australia, so he's like time to connect with people like myself, like yourself, like other people over in the US is much more limited. But he'll see these games, he'll see there's been a little bit of activity on them. He'll go, I'll take a look at that one. Boom! World record gets brought down by like 3 minutes. He's just one of those guys who just appears out of nowhere, breaks your world record and goes, see ya, and carries on with the rest of his day. He did that with Tales of Adventure. He did that with Tempo Junior, right? And it's just...
The
the
games that he runs are just so interesting.
Yeah, it's very good.
You have that. You have Tempo Junior. You have Tales Adventure. Tales Adventure for the Super Master System Deluxe as well. Yeah, he speedrun Sonic One, Sega Master System remake. Geo Flying Squadron for the Saturn, or Geo Flying Squadron 2 for the Saturn. Let's put it that way. And Hustle Chummy for the SG-1000. Like, it's just such an interesting portfolio of games, you know. And then creating a task that managed to shave off more than a minute of Tempo Junior. That is laggy as all hell. Yeah, it's impressive. It's super impressive.
That really is the... So, Tempo Junior, right? Let's have a small dive into Tempo Junior very, very quickly. Now, Tempo Junior, I love. I think it's got cute music. It's got lovely graphics that are surprisingly good for, such a limited console. But it really suffers with its frame rate. And when I say it suffers, I mean, oh my God, it suffers. It's ridiculous.
CDI levels of frame rate.
Oh my gosh. And given that the Game Gear basically polls its inputs every other frame, you're not just fighting lag, you're fighting input delay at the same time. And because the game likes slowing down to about 5 frames a second every so often, you're getting one input every third of a second. Yeah. And it can be very, very nasty. But on the other hand, the game looks really good and looks far better than any Game Gear game has any right to be. It just really struggles. So the fact that he has been able to pull so much out of this game and utilize all of his scary, evil, carnal knowledge of video games to get this task to underneath 12 minutes is fantastic. And what does make me happy is that he has included the one thing that I've added to Tempo Junior speedrunning with the bug boost.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's the 3rd stage. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember. It's been a while since I played it.
The first stage of the 2nd world, I think. Yeah, that seems correct.
It's a stage before the first boss. I know that.
Oh,
but I can't remember if
that's true. Yeah.
There we go. But yeah, so there's a little section where if you time a jump and a bounce off an enemy just right, you get just enough height to get onto a platform to the far right of the stage, and then it skips like 30 seconds. And that is my one submission to Tempo Junior speedrunning, and it will hopefully stay there until the day I die.
And then Squilly Bob decided, like, hey, you found this? I'm going to take my time down even further. Yeah. Like, we thought we had a chance. We
never had a chance.
No.
We never had a chance. That Australian bastard really, really, really took us to town and just went, nah, mate, we're doing much better than you.
Like, he came like a clock spider behind the clock, like, hello. And then took it and just went back behind this clock.
Squilly Bob
his feet sticking out, waiting.
Well, hopefully no one will hit him with a pair of slippers. So that is, in essence, the kind of the news in Sega and Sega speedrunning at the moment.
Yeah, and our first delve into a podcast about this, or in general, like this is the first time I'm doing a podcast to begin with. I'm not sure about you, but
same here. Yeah.
There we go.
The fact that we have just spoken for the last hour and a half continually and haven't.
I think we've done well.
I think we've done pretty well. Yeah. I mean, obviously the chat might vote otherwise. They might say, Jesus Christ, let's not have them back, those weirdos.
What is that thing that they had at old shows, like at theaters, like that hook to pull someone off stage? Like,
we are not in the 1940s anymore. At least I don't think so.
It would be creepy if someone just hooked me out of this room, but
I live by myself. Who could be doing that?
My dogs.
Oh, I mean, your dogs are cute though.
Yeah, but they'll bite my toes if I do something wrong.
Oh, fair enough then. But then they're still cute even if they're toe biting, right?
They're cute but fair.
You're cute but fair. What the hell is that even meant to mean? My dogs are cute. Cute but fair.
I mean, they have a great sense of justice when it comes to me doing podcasts.
My dogs are cute but fair, and they have a great sense of justice. That really kind of that summarizes the night in one very concise sentence, doesn't it? My dogs are cute but fair and have a good sense of justice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Sega Crew, I have been Jimmy Diamonds. Thank you ever so much for joining us for the last half hour of us rambling incessantly. Grump, thank you ever so much for being my co-host of the evening. It's been very appreciated.
It was my absolute pleasure. And I mean, we got some more podcasts coming up in the near future. One done by Faust and by Grimshins. That will be done on the Sunday, not the upcoming Sunday, but Sunday after. And that will go in depth as well. Like they'll have some guests over, that kind of stuff. I think we'll be back potentially next month.
Oh, well, you and I. So you say that you and I are going to be back in a couple of days because we're going to be on 40 for 40.
Oh yeah, we're going to be back. Oh God.
We are.
I really need to practice. I have
not done anything. I have not played either of the two games for the event, so it is not going to be a speed run. It's going to be me casually just shooting the shit with the people in the chat. So that's going to be a load of fun. So good luck, everyone else. But yeah, I will catch you in a couple of days, Grump. It's been a fun one, so thank you. And Sega Crew will also catch you in a couple of days. Come back and watch us on Saturday and Sunday for 40 games, for 40 years, 40 games, where we are going to be celebrating 40 years worth of Sega consoles. It's going to be a blast processing.
I see what you did there.
I know. I couldn't help myself.
Also make sure to stay up to date with everything Sega Crew by joining our Discord. I hope Booster has a link fixed yet for.
I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. Oh, he's already done it. It's there. There's a link. Here. Join the link.
Excellent. Yes. So make sure to stay up to date with everything that we're doing, and be sure to check us all out.
Yeah, go and join the
40
Discord.
For 40.
Yeah, follow the channel. Follow us on Twitter. I'm sure there's a link to the Twitter somewhere in the chat. If not, it will be on the Twitch website. But yeah, so that's us signing out. Lots of love, everyone. Peace.
Yeah. Peace.